Most people know Leonardo da Vinci as a painter, but he was much more than that. He was a polymath and was active as a painter, draughtsman, engineer, scientist, sculptor, and architect. But what most people miss about Da Vinci is that he also was a brilliant philosopher. So, what were his ideas like? Is there something we can learn from him, even today? Da Vinci's ideas could be explained by three pillars: nature as a teacher, his view on knowledge, and the idea of Renaissance humanism, and we'll tackle these ideas one by one to truly understand Leonardo da Vinci as a philosopher. As I said, one of da Vinci's ideas was his theory on nature. He believed that nature was the ultimate teacher. He's been quoted as saying, "The senses are of the earth. The reason stands apart from them in contemplation." In Da Vinci's mind, nature was something divine and the definition of a perfect entity. It was nature that guided him for his artistic and scientific approach, leading him to study the world around him meticulously. This ties in with the man's belief in direct observation of the world. It was a critical component of learning and creating for Leonardo, and it was heavily influenced by Aristotelian philosophy. So what is that? Named after the Greek philosopher Aristotle, its most important thought is emphasizing empirical observations and the acquisition of knowledge through senses, smell, hearing, seeing, touching, and so much more, depending on who you ask. Aristotle believed that all concepts and knowledge originate in experience. He viewed nature as purposeful and goal-oriented. He believed that everything in nature has a purpose and is part of a larger, ordered system. Aristotle came up with the concept to explain his belief that every answer you're looking for is found in nature. It's called the four causes. These include the material cause, what something is made of, the formal cause, its form or design, the efficient cause, how it came to be, and the final cause, its purpose or function. The concept of the four causes is important to understand, and the most important would probably be the final cause, which is the purpose or function. For Aristotle, understanding the final cause was essential to fully understanding why a thing is what it is. Aristotle's ethical theory focuses on virtues, the character traits that lead to a good life. He argued that virtue lies in the golden mean, the desirable middle between two extremes, one of excess and the other of deficiency. For instance, courage is the thing between cowardice and recklessness. Finding this meaning is a matter of practical wisdom, a skill developed through experience and reflection. Da Vinci shared this view, seeing nature as a perfect, self-sustaining system, using the four causes to guide his research and artistic work, and also using the golden mean to guide his life. Although Aristotelism doesn't perfectly describe the entirety of Da Vinci's philosophy, it's an important part of it. Today, the division between art and science is embedded in our culture. We think of science as exact, objective, following a strict method, whereas art is creative and subjective with no formal rules. But this misunderstands both art and science. In actual practice of science, it's not about following strict rules, but like art, it's about making judgment calls and thinking creatively. There are countless examples of creative scientists: Albert Einstein, Marie Curie, Katherine Johnson, Charles Darwin, and of course Da Vinci. He never really saw a divide between science, art, and philosophy. He believed that knowledge in one area would enhance the knowledge in another. Back to his arguments about nature, which would be a hard science today. But it's important to remember that if you learn about nature, you learn about philosophy. If you learn about art, you also gain knowledge in science and philosophy. This could be seen in his inventions. As you know, Leonardo was a prolific inventor. His notebooks are filled with sketches and descriptions of various machines and devices, such as flying machines, a tank, and a machine for testing the tensile strength of wire. Although many of these inventions were never built, they demonstrate his innovative thinking and deep understanding of mechanics. His innovative thinking also led him to invent a new technique when painting called sfumato, a technique that allows tones and colors to shade gradually into one another, producing softened outlines and an atmospheric effect. While painting, he also wrote down his thoughts in his notebook. He occasionally wrote about society, culture, and the role of the artist and scientist within them. His views were often ahead of his time, reflecting a deep engagement with the humanist ideals of the Renaissance. In his artwork, particularly in his anatomical drawings, which he gained knowledge through his scientific work, you could see in paintings like the Vitruvian Man, Da Vinci often explored the harmony between the human body and the human soul. All his drawings often conveyed a sense of seeking beyond the physical, perhaps hinting at his contemplation of the soul. Perhaps this is why Mona Lisa is so popular today. It's so much more than just a painting. As you can see, all the things Da Vinci did were the same to him. It didn't make him too broad and instead made him understand the world around him better. Da Vinci was a Renaissance humanist. This was a cultural movement that placed a strong emphasis on human potential and experience. He celebrated the beauty and complexity of the human form in his art and was deeply interested in human anatomy, often dissecting human bodies to learn more about what it means to be human, believing that the bodies he dissected were in some way intermingled with the spiritual component we refer to as the mind or the soul. Humanism can be traced back to the pre-Socratic Greece, basically just Greece before and during Socrates' life. Socrates talked about knowing yourself, and Aristotle focused on ethics. All of these things would later become a cornerstone for humanism. During the Renaissance, there was an exploration of ancient learning, finding and then translating the ancient works of Socrates, Plato, or Aristotle to name a few, using them to guide their reasoning. The ideas of Renaissance humanism can strongly be seen in the artworks like Raphael's School of Athens. Right in the middle we have Plato and Aristotle, surrounded by countless Athenians. The way the painting is composed perfectly explains Renaissance humanism, with its balance, focus on geometry, mathematics, engineering, and optics. While Renaissance humanism and humanism are slightly different, they still embody the same philosophy on life. They strive to celebrate human achievement, exploration and individuality, living lives of personal fulfillment that lead to the greater good of humanity. Now, back to the Vitruvian Man. It's also a perfect explanation for humanism, because it puts the human right in the center of the natural world. Although it's important to remember, while there were identifying features, it did not have a specific unifying thesis, goal, or ideology, as many positions in philosophy do. Rather, it was a cultural movement that had a profound impact on the philosophy of its time. Da Vinci embodied this philosophy, probably reading texts of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle at his leisure, and trying to maximize the responsibility he had as a human to benefit mankind. Da Vinci's philosophy is not written down in its entirety, so it's impossible to know every single detail in what he believed. But his notebooks, his art, scientific inquiry, and the Renaissance gives us a glimpse into his mind and his ideas. What else could the man have believed? We will probably never know, but this is what we have right now, and it at least makes me respect Leonardo da Vinci even more than I already did.